Welcome back, students. Now today's topic is solid solutions. Now before starting solid solution, I remind you of the classification of solutions. I told you that on the basis of physical state, solutions are of 9 types, and out of that there is a one type or there is a 3 types in which solvent is solid. Whenever solvent is solid, the type of solution is known as solid solutions. Solute may be liquid, it may be solid, it may be gas. But whenever solvent is solid, then the solutions are known as, collectively they are known as solid solutions. In your syllabus, only one type of solid solution is mentioned, that is that solid solution in which both solute as well as solvent, they are in the solid form. So, solid solutions are those solutions in which solvent is generally in the solid form. The most important type of solid solution is that in which both solvent as well as solute are in solid form. Now, these solid solutions, these are further of 2 types. Substitutional solid solutions and interstitial solid solutions. Now, what do you mean by substitutional solid solution? Substitutional solid solution, from the name it indicates these are the solid solutions in which one solid substitute the other solid in its crystal. So, these are the solid solutions in which one solid forms the crystal and other solid having same size will substitute that solid from its crystal or lattice point. Suppose you have a solid. This is the solid crystal in which all the atoms they are present in the crystal lattice points, or all atoms they are at their proper lattice points. Sometimes when some other atom or ion or molecule having same size as that of the atoms of this solid crystal, it substitute the atom of this solid crystal, and such type of solid solution is known as substitutional solid solution. Or in other words, you can say here solvent is shown with the help of red circle because solvent is in excess amount. We have solvent which is in the form of solid. They constitute a crystal lattice, and when solute having same size of atoms as that of the solvent molecule, it substitute one or more than one atoms of the solvent in the solution, then such type of solution is known as substitutional solid solution. Common example is brass, bronze, etc. Both these are alloys of copper. Here copper is alloyed with zinc, whereas in bronze copper is alloyed with tin. Now what happened? Here copper acts as solvent and zinc in case of brass acts as solute, and in case of bronze acts as tin acts as solute. we have a copper crystal in which all the atoms they are present in their lattice points. Sometimes from outside we add another atom, that is zinc or tin, which is having almost same size as that of copper, and they occupy some of the positions of atoms, ions or molecules of copper crystal. Such type of solid solution which is formed by the combination of solvent and solute in their solid form are known as substitutional solid solution. Now second, one important point in this case is that only those atoms acts as, or only those solids acts as solute which have similar or nearly same size as that of solvent atoms. That means in this case size of atom is very important. Now we will move towards second type of solid solution, which is known as interstitial solid solutions. So interstitial solid solutions are those solid solutions in which an atom, ion or molecule of a solid forms crystal lattice and another atom having small size. They occupy the interstitial spaces within the crystal of first atom. For example, if you have this type of structure, here red color spheres, they form solvent, and sometimes small sized atoms, they come and occupy their interstitial spaces. These are the atoms, ions or molecules of solute. As they occupy the interstitial spaces, so these are known as such type of solutions which is formed by the combination of solute and solvent are known as interstitial solid solution. I repeat, these are the solid solutions in which solute particles which are in the form of solid, they occupy the interstitial sites of solvent molecules, or they occupy the interstitial sites in the crystal lattice of solvent molecules. For example, tungsten carbide. Whose formula is WC, because symbol of tungsten is W, is an example of interstitial solid solution in which tungsten atom, they are arranged in FCC arrangement. Tungsten atoms, they are showing FCC arrangement, face centered cubic arrangement, and carbon atoms being small in size, they occupy the voids, and in this case tungsten carbide, carbon atoms being small in size, they occupy all the octahedral sites. So this type of solid solution where tungsten acts as a solvent and carbon acts as a solute because it is in small amount. Such type of solid solution is known as interstitial solid solution. Why? Because here solute occupies the interstitial sites of crystal of solvent molecule. Whereas in the first case we show that here solvent molecules form the crystal lattice and solute molecules, when they substitute any atom, one or more than one atom of solvent crystal, that is known as substitution solid solution. Its another common example is steel, which is actually carbide of iron. Here also iron acts as solvent, that is it is present in a crystal lattice, and carbon occupies the interstitial spaces, and here carbon acts as solute. Now, as you have observed that in substitution solid solution, the important point is that only those solute forms substitution solid solution with the solvent which have nearly same size as that of solvent molecules or solvent atoms. In this case also there is an important point that only those atoms act as solute which have small size, so that they can easily occupy the interstitial spaces of the solvent crystal. So this is all about solid solutions. So students, our next topic is vapor pressure and Raoult's law. But before proceeding towards Raoult's law, firstly you must know what do you mean by vapor pressure. Now what is vapor pressure? Of solid solutions. Suppose you have a beaker in which you take any solvent or water, you heat it. What happens? This water evaporates and form vapors. But as this beaker is open, the vapors go or escape towards atmosphere. And we are not able to judge whether water is evaporating or not in the initial state. But when you take a closed vessel, again you have water in the beaker, you give heat to this water. What happens? Some of the water molecules, they undergo evaporation and form vapors. This process of conversion of water liquid into vapors is known as, this process when liquid water is converted into gaseous form or vapor state is known as evaporation. Since this beaker is closed, so what happened? In the start, the rate of evaporation is very high because we have large amount of liquid water. After some time, this process goes on. After some time, these vapors, when they are in excess amount, they collide with each other as well as with the walls of the container. वो आपस में भी कोलाइड करेंगे और कंटेनर की वॉल्स के साथ भी टकराएंगे. And while they are colliding, they lose some of the energy and come back to liquid state. And this process of conversion of vapor into liquid is known as condensation. Now in the start, it has been observed because when we start this process, then there is no vapor. So in the start, rate of evaporation is very high. And rate of condensation is 0. But after some time, when this process goes on, then what happens? Rate of condensation also increases and rate of evaporation decreases. A particular state comes which is known as equilibrium state. at this state rate of evaporation is equal to rate of condensation. It's okay. That means starting में जब हमने ये water लिया था, because at that time there is no vapor, so rate of evaporation is high, but rate of condensation is almost zero because we don't have any vapor. But after some time, जैसे जैसे reaction proceed हुई, vapors liquid की amount थोड़ी सी कम हो रही थी, इसलिए rate of evaporation कम होने शुरू हुआ, but rate of condensation बढ़ने शुरू हो गया. एक ऐसा पॉइंट आया, एक ऐसा टेम्परेचर आया जहां पर रेट ऑफ इवेपोरेशन जो है वो रेट ऑफ कंडेंसेशन के बराबर होगी. दैट पॉइंट इज नोन एज इक्विलिब्रियम पॉइंट. सो एट इक्विलिब्रियम स्टेट रेट ऑफ इवेपोरेशन इज इक्वल टू रेट ऑफ कंडेंसेशन. एट दिस पॉइंट it appears that there is no condensation and no evaporation because both the process takes place in equal rate. हमें लगता है कि ना ही कंडेंसेशन हो रही, जितना लिक्विड वाटर था उतना ही रहा, जितने वेपर से उतने ही रहे. बट एक्चुअल में दोनों प्रोसेस हो रहे होते हैं, दोनों का रेट इक्वल होता है बिकॉज बोथ आर मूविंग इन द ऑपोजिट डायरेक्शन. दैट इज वाई हमें लगता है कि प्रोसेस रुक गया, बट दैट प्रोसेस कंटिन्यूज एंड दैट पॉइंट इज नोन एज इक्विलिब्रियम स्टेट. नाउ व्हाट हैपन एट दिस स्टेट, एट इक्विलिब्रियम स्टेट, जो ये वेपर्स हैं, दीज वेपर्स दे एक्सर्ट सम प्रेशर on the surface of liquid. ये क्या करते हैं, ये कुछ प्रेशर एक्सर्ट करते हैं लिक्विड की सरफेस पे, एंड दिस प्रेशर इज एक्चुअली नोन एज वेपर प्रेशर. इसी प्रेशर को हम क्या बोलते हैं, वेपर प्रेशर. सो फ्रॉम दिस कॉन्सेप्ट यू कैन डिफाइन वेपर प्रेशर एज प्रेशर exerted by the vapors on the surface of liquid in equilibrium with it at equilibrium point is known as vapor pressure. So at equilibrium point जब equilibrium आ जाता है उस समय वेपर्स ने लिक्विड की सरफेस पे जो प्रेशर लगाया, that pressure is known as vapor pressure. Now vapor pressure depends on different factors. So we have factors, different factors affecting vapor pressure of solutions. First factor. Now we have three factors. Sorry, not three. We have different factors. First is nature of liquid. Why liquid? Because we take here only liquid solutions. Here I mentioned solid solution. It's not solid because in your syllabus it's only for liquid solution. So first factor is nature of liquid. By nature of liquid we mean those liquids whose intermolecular forces or intermolecular forces of interaction are weak. Liquids having weak forces of interaction have greater vapor pressure, whereas liquids whose forces of interaction are strong, they have less vapor pressure. Why? We will take example of diethyl ether or any ether. it may be dimethyl ether, it may be any ether, diethyl ether and ethyl alcohol. You know the formula of diethyl ether? It's C2H5O C2H5, and ethyl alcohol is C2H5OH. Both have this part, both have similar part, this one. Diethyl ether is actually formed when we replace hydrogen with C2H5 ethyl group. Now, because here hydrogen is present, so this hydrogen will form hydrogen bond with other ethyl alcohol molecule. Because in a solution we have large number of ethanol molecules, and the hydrogen of one ethanol molecule forms hydrogen bond with the other ethanol molecule. But in this case, as there is no hydrogen, so no hydrogen bond is formed. These are only interacted with other molecule with the help of other intermolecular forces. They may be van der Waals forces, they may be London forces, different intermolecular forces. And here hydrogen bond is formed. And we know that hydrogen bond is comparatively stronger than other intermolecular interactions. As a result, one ethanol molecule is not able to escape from the other ethanol molecule. And when it is not able to escape, it will not form vapors easily. That is why its vapor pressure is less compared to that of diethyl ether. And my point is, liquids which are having weak intermolecular forces, they have greater vapor pressure. सिंपल वर्ड्स में हम बोलेंगे, जिन लिक्विड मॉलिक्यूल्स में फोर्सेस ऑफ इंटरेक्शन आपस में क्या होंगी, वीक होंगी, वो जब आप उसको थोड़ी सी हीट दोगे वो फोर्सेस टूट जाएंगे. टूटने पे वो मॉलिक्यूल्स इजीली वेपर स्टेट में चले जाएंगे. जब वो वेपर्स में जाएंगे, जितने ज्यादा वेपर्स होंगे उतना ज्यादा वेपर प्रेशर होगा. ऑन द अदर हैंड, जिनके बीच में स्ट्रॉन्ग फोर्सेस होंगी, दे आर नॉट एबल टू ब्रेक दैट स्ट्रॉन्ग फोर्सेस. एज ए रिजल्ट कम वेपर्स बनेंगे और कम वेपर प्रेशर होगा. This is a simple example of nature of liquid. Now second point is temperature. Now it has been observed that with the increase in temperature, there is increase in vapor pressure. Why? Because when we increase temperature of any solution, its kinetic energy increases. When kinetic energy increases, molecules escape and they form vapors. More the vapors are formed, more will be the vapor pressure. I'll explain it again. जब आप किसी लिक्विड का टेम्परेचर बढ़ाओगे, जनरली लिक्विड के मॉलिक्यूल्स थोड़े से पास होते हैं. जब आपने उसको टेम्परेचर दिया, उन मॉलिक्यूल्स की क्या हुई, काइनेटिक एनर्जी बढ़ गई. जब काइनेटिक एनर्जी बढ़ी तो वो मॉलिक्यूल्स एक दूसरे से दूर होने लगे और रैंडमली मूव करने शुरू हो गए. और जब उन्होंने मूव किया, दे फॉर्म वेपर्स. जितने ज्यादा वेपर्स बनेंगे उतना ज्यादा वो प्रेशर एक्सर्ट करेंगे. सो ग्रेटर द टेम्परेचर, मोर विल बी द वेपर प्रेशर एंड वाइस वर्सा. मीन्स कम करोगे टेम्परेचर को तो वेपर प्रेशर भी कम हो जाएगा. द थर्ड फैक्टर इज प्यूरिटी of liquid. Now purity, by the term purity of liquid we mean greater the purity of liquid, greater will be its vapor pressure and vice versa. I will explain this point with the help of a diagram. See here. If you have pure liquid here, which is volatile or which has the capacity to form vapors. When you heat it, all these molecules, how many molecules are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. All have the tendency to form vapors. That means you have 10 vapors here. Because they escape the surface, and so they have 11 vapors here. Because all these molecules, they escape the surface and form vapors. Now in another case, this is pure liquid. Now in another case, you mixed this liquid with some solute or with some other molecule which is not able to form vapors. Suppose this is non-volatile and this is volatile. Volatile means which have the capacity to form vapors, and non-volatile are those which do not form vapors. Now some of the position of volatile liquid is occupied by non-volatile solute particles. In this case we have 11 molecules. Now here also we have 11 because this is the same liquid. 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See here. Again we have 11 molecules. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. But in this case, the solvent molecules are not 11 in number. They are now 7 in number, and 4 are solute molecule which do not form any vapor. As a result, how many vapors are formed here? Only 7 vapors are formed here. This is suppose. As a result, what happens when it is pure? It forms 11 vapors, but when it is not pure, it is mixed with some other substance which is non-volatile, then it forms less vapors. So when greater the number of vapors, more will be the vapor pressure. Smaller the number of vapors, less will be the vapor pressure. As a result, impure liquid has less vapor pressure, whereas this has more vapor pressure. I think now this is clear to you that greater the purity of liquid, more will be vapor pressure, and vice versa. So this is our fourth factor and the last factor which affects vapor pressure of solution, that is boiling point. It has been observed that greater the boiling point of any solution, of any liquid, means less is the vapor pressure of that liquid, and vice versa. Boiling point जितना ज्यादा होगा उतना उसका वेपर प्रेशर कम होगा, and vice versa. How? I will explain it in detail in the next topic of colligative properties, but here I will give you some brief explanation. When a liquid has large boiling point, अगर एक लिक्विड का बॉइलिंग पॉइंट बहुत ही हाई है, क्या होगा? आपने उसको हीट किया, आप उसको टेम्परेचर बढ़ा रहे हो. आपने पहले 1 डिग्री बढ़ाया, उसको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ा, वो लिक्विड था, वो लिक्विड ही रहा. आपने और 10 डिग्री बढ़ा दिया, अब अभी भी उसने लिक्विड, अभी भी बिकॉज उसका बॉइलिंग पॉइंट बहुत हाई है, अभी भी वो बॉइल नहीं स्टार्ट हुआ. अब आपने उसका और बढ़ा दिया, तो क्या होगा? लिक्विड बॉइल करना शुरू हो गया. लिक्विड बॉइल करेगा एट हाई टेम्परेचर, तो उसने वेपर्स बनाए. एज अ रिजल्ट लो टेम्परेचर पे तो उसके कोई वेपर्स बने ही नहीं. बिकॉज ऑफ दैट उसका जो वेपर्स का नंबर है वो कम होगा. लेकिन जैसे जैसे आप हाई टेम्परेचर बढ़ाओगे, टेम्परेचर को बढ़ाओगे, तो उसके वेपर्स बनेंगे. दैट मीन्स जितना ज्यादा बॉइलिंग पॉइंट होगा उतने वेपर्स जो है वो कम बनेंगे, वेपर्स कम बने तो वेपर प्रेशर कम होगा। और रिवर्स में अगर हम बोले किसी लिक्विड का बॉइलिंग पॉइंट बहुत ही लो है, तो आपने उसको हीट किया, वो जल्दी बॉइल हो गया, आपने और हीट किया, वो और बॉइल हो रहा है और ज्यादा वेपर्स बन गए। जितने ज्यादा वेपर्स बनेंगे उतना उसका वेपर प्रेशर हाई होगा। सो greater the boiling point, less is the vapor pressure, or you can say boiling point and vapor pressure are inversely proportional to each other. So this is all about vapor pressure of liquid solution and different factors which affects the vapor pressure of solutions. We have 4 factors which affects the vapor pressure of liquid solution. Vapor pressure and Raoult's law. F.M. Raoult who was a French scientist. In 1886, gave a quantitative relationship between partial vapor pressure and mole fractions of two components in a solution. And this relationship is known as Raoult's law. And here we take binary solution because I told you in the beginning that we take here binary solutions only. So F.M. Raoult ने क्या किया, उसने different binary solutions को study किया और उसमें देखा कि जब वो उसको हीट कर रहा था तो हीट करने पे जो उसमें 2 कंपोनेंट्स हैं उनका पार्शियल वेपर प्रेशर, बिकॉज वो कंपोनेंट दोनों ही वेपर प्रेशर एग्जिबिट कर रहे हैं, हर एक का जो वेपर प्रेशर है उसको हम पार्शियल वेपर प्रेशर बोलते हैं इन अ सोल्यूशन। तो उसके पार्शियल वेपर प्रेशर और उनके मोल फ्रैक्शन के बीच में क्या रिलेशन है उसको उसने क्वांटिटेटिवली एक रिलेशन के फॉर्म में दिया, एंड दैट रिलेशनशिप इज नोन एज रॉल्ट्स लॉ। नाउ रॉल्ट्स लॉ कैन बी स्टडीड अंडर 2 कैटेगरीज। Raoult's law for volatile solutions and Raoult's law for non-volatile component. For solution having non-volatile component in it. This is Raoult's law for volatile solution, that is where both solute and solvent are volatile in nature. So we discuss firstly this one, Raoult's law for volatile solution. So Raoult's law for volatile solutions. If we consider a solution having 2 components A and B and both are volatile in nature, mole fraction of this A component is chi A and that of B is chi B. And partial pressure of this component is PA in the solution and this is PB in the solution. This is partial vapor pressure of components in solution, and if partial vapor pressure of A component in the pure state is Pa naught and that of B is Pb naught. These are the partial vapor pressure of components in pure state. Now according to Raoult, what is the statement of this law? Raoult states that according to Raoult's law, in a solution of volatile components, the partial vapor pressure of each component at a particular temperature is equal to product of mole fraction of that component in solution and its partial vapor pressure in pure state. So this is the statement of Raoult's law for volatile solution. I'll explain. Raoult's law बोलता है कि in a solution of volatile components, एक ऐसा solution जिसमें दोनों components volatile है, the partial vapor pressure of each component, उसमें क्या होगा, जो partial vapor pressure, जो vapor pressure एक component exhibit कर रहा हो solution के अंदर at a particular temperature, वो किसके बराबर होगा? It is equal to product of वो उसके मोल फ्रैक्शन और उसके पार्शियल वेपर प्रेशर जो कि उसने प्योर स्टेट में एग्जिबिट किया, उन दोनों के प्रोडक्ट के बराबर है. मैथमेटिकली I told you that there are two components A and B. Their mole fraction, their partial pressure in solution as well as in the pure state, they are represented by these symbols. So mathematically, according to Raoult's law, PA, that is partial vapor pressure, where I have written partial vapor pressure of A component in solution is equal to partial vapor pressure of this component in the pure state, and whenever we say pure state we put here naught into its mole fraction. This is the mathematical statement of Raoult's law for volatile component. This is one component. Similarly, we have Pb is equal to Pb naught chi b. Now what is this Pa naught and Pa? I'll show it with the help of a diagram. Suppose you have a solvent or water. When you heat it, this is pure water. When you heat it, this water molecule, they form vapors. This vapor pressure is known as partial vapor pressure of water in the pure state, because nothing is mixed with water. So this is partial vapor pressure of water in the pure state, or you can write here Pa naught. Now in second case, now this is not pure water. Here water is mixed with some other solute or some other molecules. Suppose you mix here ethanol. So some surface position is occupied by ethanol molecule. Again here vapors are formed. Some are formed by ethanol molecules and some are formed by water molecules. The pressure exhibited by these red colored vapors, that is the vapor pressure of water, but not in the pure state, because here water is mixed with something. So this is Pa. That means vapor pressure of or partial pressure of water in solution, not in the pure state. And these green vapors, they represent vapor pressure, partial vapor pressure of ethanol in solution, not in the pure state. However, if you have third case where only ethanol is present, pure ethanol, then vapors, because only ethanol are present, then vapors are formed by ethanol molecule, and this pressure exhibited by these vapors is represented by Pb naught. So I think now you know what is vapor pressure in the pure state and what is vapor pressure in solution. So whenever we talk about vapor pressure in pure state, it is represented by naught, by putting naught or zero on the symbol of this partial pressure. So this is partial pressure in pure state of water, and this is partial vapor pressure of ethanol. And in this case, when both are mixed together, they form solution. And in this case, we have partial pressure of water as well as partial pressure of ethanol, because both are volatile substances. And these partial pressures, they are not in the pure state, they are in the solution. So we do not put naught symbol here and here. One more thing, I told you in my previous lecture that by convention we always represent solvent with A letter. So this is solvent and B with solute. So in the designation, this A is the solvent. This is for solvent, Ka, Pa, Pa naught, A, and B is for solute. So I think now you understand what is Raoult's law for volatile solution. This is the statement of Raoult's law, that is, in a binary solution of two volatile components, partial vapor pressure of each component at a particular temperature is always equal to the product of its mole fraction and its partial pressure in the pure state. This is for solvent and this is for solute. Now, because this is a binary solution, we have two components. So total pressure, which is either represented by P, symbol P, or sometimes P with S in the subscript, is equal to partial pressure of solvent plus partial pressure of solute. Substitute these values in the above relation. We have total pressure equal to Pa, because Pa here is Pa naught Ka plus Pb, and Pb is, according to Raoult's law, it is equal to Pb naught Kb. In some books, they are writing this Pa naught as capital P. But you know that Ka plus Kb equal to 1, or from here you can substitute either the value of Ka or Kb, or chi b is equal to 1 minus chi a. Substitute this value in the above relation. Therefore, capital P is equal to P a naught chi a. I substitute here the value of chi b. You can also substitute the value of chi a. It's your choice. Plus Pb naught 1 minus chi a, which is equal to Pa naught chi a plus Pb naught minus Pb naught chi a, or P is equal to chi a terms. When you take common, that is Pa minus Pb naught, Pa naught minus Pb naught chi a plus Pb naught. So this is the total pressure of solution having two volatile components in it according to Raoult's law. Now Raoult's law can also be explained with the help of a plot. This is the definition of Raoult's law for volatile components. Now I will proceed towards its graphical representation. Now from this equation, here we observe that this Pa naught, Pb naught, they are constant at a given temperature. Why? Because these are the partial vapor pressure of any component in the pure state and at a particular temperature, and we know that vapor pressure of any component at a particular temperature is always constant. So as these terms are constant, so we can say that when we plot a graph between mole fraction and partial pressure, it will give you a straight line. I'll show this with the help of a graph. When we draw a plot between mole fraction of any component and partial vapor pressure, according to this equation, as these are constants, that means total pressure of solution depends only on the mole fraction of the component, and it is also depicted with the help of this graph that we get a straight line. Now mole fraction, we take here, suppose we have chi a equal to 1, and we know that earlier I told you that sum of fraction of both the components in a binary solution is always equal to unity. If mole fraction of A is 1, then mole fraction of B is always equal to 0. And when you move towards this side, what happens? Chi A, or mole fraction of A component, that is solvent, it decreases, and mole fraction of B component increases. That means in this case, chi A at this point, suppose we have chi A equal to 0 and chi B equal to 1. Now look here, at this point only one component is present, that is A, that is solvent. Solute is not present. That means pressure on this line is only due to solvent, and you know that pressure due to a single component is partial pressure in the pure state. So the point on this axis represents the partial pressure of A component, because here only A is present, A component in the pure state when there is no solute in it. Similarly, at this point chi A is 0, that means solvent is not present, only solute is present. So pressure on this axis is due to solute only. So it is represented by PV naught. Now, when we plot a graph between mole fraction and partial pressure, what happened? Because here mole fraction of A component is 1, and when you move here, when you move from this side to this side, mole fraction of A decreases, and we observe that pressure also, we here get a straight line which indicates that partial pressure of A component decreases. When it is pure, it is maximum, but when you move toward this side, that means when you add solute in it slowly and slowly, then partial pressure of A component decreases, and this straight line will give you partial pressure of A in the solution. It states that partial pressure of A is directly proportional to mole fraction of A component in the solution, and when you remove this proportionality symbol, it is PA is equal to PA naught, because I told you that this is constant, into chi A, which is a statement of Raoult's law. So here this line, this straight line will give you P value of partial pressure of A in the solution, which is equal to PA naught into chi A. Similarly, when you observe this this side, here only solute is present, whose pressure is maximum on this line, and this pressure is in the pure state, PB naught. When you move toward this side, the mole fraction of chi B decreases and finally it reaches to 0. That is why graph shows this type of line, where you can say that when you move from this side to this side along x-axis, because mole fraction of B increases, so its partial pressure also increases, and this line, straight line, will give you the value of partial pressure of B component in the solution, which is equal to PB naught into chi B. Or you can say from this line, because this is a straight line, and straight line is always obtained when there are two components which are in direct relation. It means PB is directly proportional to mole fraction of B. When you remove this proportionality symbol, it is equal to PB naught chi B, which is actually the statement of Raoult's law, which you studied earlier. Now when you join these 2 points, this is partial pressure of B component in the pure state, and this is partial pressure of A component in the pure state. When you join these 2 points, this line will give you a total pressure of solution, which is equal to PA, sum of both the components, that is PA plus PB. Now one important point is this: why I have shown this PB naught and PA naught in this way, where PB, it is clear from this graph that PB naught is greater than PA naught, which means that vapor pressure of B component is more than that of PA naught. I suppose this condition, this graph is obtained when I suppose that B component is more volatile than A component. If you take another case where A is more volatile than B, then the value of PA naught is more and PB naught is less. In that case, the graph is like this one, and you get again a straight line. That means this equation, as this equation shows you that pressure is directly proportional to molar fraction of the component. This is further depicted with the help of straight line obtained in this graph, where we get a straight line which is equal to total pressure of the solution, and this total pressure is in accordance with Dalton's law of partial pressure, that is total pressure is equal to partial pressure of each component in the solution. So this plot will clearly indicate or will clearly prove Raoult's law for volatile component, which indicates that partial pressure of each component in a solution having both the components as volatile is equal to product of partial pressure of that component in the pure state and its mole fraction. And total pressure of the volatile solution is equal to sum of partial pressure of each component. In simple words, हम simple language में ये बोलते हैं कि पार्शियल प्रेशर जो है वो मोल फ्रैक्शन ऑफ कंपोनेंट पे डिपेंड करता है. अगर आपके पास सोल्यूशन में किसी कंपोनेंट की अमाउंट ज्यादा है तो उसका पार्शियल प्रेशर भी ज्यादा होगा. अगर उसकी किसी सोल्यूशन में एक कंपोनेंट है वो कम अमाउंट में प्रेजेंट है, वोलेटाइल कंपोनेंट कम अमाउंट में प्रेजेंट है, तो उसका पार्शियल प्रेशर भी उतना ही कम होगा. दिस इज डिपिक्टेड फ्रॉम दिस स्ट्रेट लाइन. अगर जो पार्शियल प्रेशर ए है वो किस पे डिपेंड कर रहा है, मोल फ्रैक्शन ऑफ ए पे. जितनी मोल फ्रैक्शन ए की ज्यादा होगी और जितना मोल फ्रैक्शन जो है ए कंपोनेंट का ज्यादा होगा उतना ही उसका प्रेशर भी ज्यादा होगा. सिमिलरली जितना मोल फ्रैक्शन बी कंपोनेंट का ज्यादा होगा उतनी ही उसका पार्शियल प्रेशर भी उस सोल्यूशन में उतना ही ज्यादा होगा. और जो टोटल प्रेशर है वो दोनों कंपोनेंट्स के प्रेशर के सम ऑफ देयर पार्शियल प्रेशर के बराबर होता है अकॉर्डिंग टू डाल्टन्स लॉ. क्योंकि डाल्टन ने कहा था व्हेनेवर वी मिक्स टू कंपोनेंट्स जो आपस में क्या होंगे, जो रिएक्ट नहीं करते होंगे लेकिन मिक्सिबल होंगे, तो उनका जो टोटल प्रेशर है वो सम ऑफ ऑल पार्शियल प्रेशर ऑफ ऑल द कंपोनेंट्स के बराबर होता है. So this is all about Raoult's law for volatile components in which both the components are volatile. Now the second part of Raoult's law, that is for non-volatile component, we will discuss it in our next lecture. Thank you.